Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello and welcome back to the Gavra Racing GT7 Season 7, Round 9. I think it's Round 9. Yeah, Round number 9 for the American Grand Prix, the first of 3 American races at the Grand Valley Highway, located in the made-up regions of California, or at least it's based in California. We're going to get into the starting grid and run down how the 13 drivers line up for tonight's grid. On pole position, once again, is Bon Evil in the red and white Alfa Romeo, fairly similar with that starting grid position. He starts on pole position with a 1 minute 46.3. Alongside him in second place is the current championship leader, Play-Dutchy, less than a tenth off the pole sitter. In third place, it's a McLaren second row. The first one is Piero, currently second place in the championship, about 30 points behind Play-Dutch, I think. So the championship is still all to play for, and alongside him is the other McLaren of myself, ex-Natty G, the top 4 separated by 4 tenths. In fifth place, which is what I think is his best starting position of the season, is Wiggity Style in the Toyota Supra. Alongside him, his teammate Cameron Kaboom, who was just a second off pole position. Outside the 1 second window is Abyss in the Nissan GTR, made his GT7 debut last week at Mount Panorama, and he's back starting in 7th place alongside another returning driver, Topster, who we haven't seen for a while, from season 6 at the Nürburgring. Before that, done the first season of GT Sports. Just behind him is the reigning champion, Toussaint, starting in 9th place with a special livery on the Mercedes AMG. Just behind him is Wolfie 907, the Group B Season 4 champion. The Irishman will be looking to try and move forward from his grid starting position, as well as Tiger Assassin in his Australian-themed Porsche. We're on the other side of the world now, but the livery remains the same for the man, the Brit, starting in 11th place, and just behind him Aston F1 in the 4GT in 12th place, and ahead of him Black Country Mush starts 13th place, last but not least, but will have a clear road behind him going in towards the first corner. And those are the 13 drivers who will be starting this race here tonight. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. If you can't, let me know in the comments, although that's impossible. Yep, I can hear myself, so that's great. So let's get into this race then. Good evening, Bon Evil. I know for those watching this back not live, this is being filmed straight after the race because I do not have time in the week to stream it. It'll be on the Friday when I'm supposed to be practicing / hosting / racing at Road Atlanta. So we'll do it now. Let's get all the stuff on the screen for you all to see. And without further ado, Grand Valley Highway is about to make its debut. The first of 3 American races on the calendar, 5.1 kilometres, 18 corners, 5 red lights. Someone's jumped the start. I think that's Abyss in the midfield, and it's lights out, and away we go. The Nissan doesn't move off the line after jumping the start, and it's a clean getaway from Bon Evil from pole position. Piero and Natty wheel to wheel as the 2 McLarens get off to a good start. Dutchy just dropping down behind the McLaren, but gets back up into a podium position. 2 by 2 in the midfield. Topster on the inside of Cameron Kaboom, and I think Toussaint getting the jump on Aston F1. But Bon Evil leads the field down the S's in towards the hairpin. Turn number 4, one of the key overtaking opportunities at this track. Bonnie leads Piero, Dutch in 3rd place, followed by Natty Wrigley. It's 2 by 2, Topster on the inside, South following him through. Cameron Kaboom trying to go round the outside, but has lost a couple of positions, and doing so might have broken a little bit too late. Tiger Assassin now ahead of Aston, who's going wheel to wheel with Cameron Kaboom, the 4GT. Just can't quite find enough room to go on the outside, makes contact with the Alfa Romeo, trying to find a way through on the inside. Now here comes the Nissan of Abyss, who has dropped down to 11th place. A little bit of contact as Wolfie hits the back of him and will drop down into last position behind Black Country Mush, although the Irishman has got a decent exit, but isn't close enough to pull alongside. Through Tunnel 2 they go, although it's no longer called Tunnel 2 because there is no tunnel here at this corner. Whether the corner name will be renamed, we'll have to wait and see. Bonnie leads Piero, leads Dutchy, starting on the hard compound tyres. The rest of the drivers on the mediums, although unlike F1 you can't see what tyres the drivers start the race on. Just have to kind of guess or assume what the strategy will be, but Toussaint all up the back of Topster through the chicane. I believe it's called the Valley Switchback chicane, and has actually got a good run on the McLaren GTR, riding on board driver's eye essentially of the Mercedes, nearly pushing that McLaren through the final corner, pulls out to the left hand side. How much will the Topster want to defend this? I think Toussaint's going to try and work with. No, he's not. He's pulled over to the right hand side of the circuit, left hand side of your screen, and goes down the inside, going towards turn 2. Slows it down in time, makes up the position. Aston trying to go wheel to wheel with Black Country Mush. The battle for 9th place, and the 4GT gets ahead of the Mercedes. Cameron Caboon might try and follow him through. These two going side by side, two Brits in the battle for 10th place, still wheel to wheel, but Abyss gets the position done up into 10th place. Is he going to send it on Aston? He does. He makes contact with the back of the 4GT, and I think Aston's going to keep the position up front. We've got Topster battling Wiggly Style. I think that's the Swiss getting ahead of the German, whilst the front two begin to pull away on Dutchy on the hard compound tyre. Bonneville leads from Piero after starting on pole position. You can see the drivers making their way through the 90-degree left-hander. Tiger in the Australian-themed Porsche keeping up with the back of this train for what is 5th place. Although, to be fair, Toussaint's not too far behind from McLaren in front, and this kind of train being led by Dutchy, I don't think many of the drivers knew or would assume Dutchy would start this race in the hard compound tyre, aiming to go long in this race, longer than any other driver on the grid. And it's going to be a slow, painful first stint, but if he can make the most of those tyres, it'll come back to him later when he's on those fresh, soft, compound tyres. Depends how long he goes into this race on those set of soft tyres. But Bonnie and Piero extend their lead out in front as we're about to finish lap 2, going through the tunnel at the final corner. Dutchy and Natalie making their way through. Toussaint, Wiggly, Topster, Tiger Sass in the top 8, still fairly close together, making their way down the start-finish straight. As we finish lap 2 to start lap 3, Piero with the fastest lap of the race so far. Cameron Caboon alongside Abyss going in towards turn 2. Late on the brakes down the inside. Abyss just the good old switcheroo on the exit, makes a little bit of contact with the Lexus, but Brit of Cameron Caboon gets ahead of Abyss down at the first corner. Meanwhile up front, you can see all the drivers making their way through the hairpin. Not close enough to go for any overtakes, or maybe working with the driver in front to try and save a little bit of fuel in the early phase of the race. We seem to have kind of 3 packs of drivers. We've got the battle between Bonnie and Piero, Dutchy down to Tiger, and then Cameron Caboon with the 4 Brits behind him. Abyss, Aston, Black Country Mush, and then Wolfie, who's not too far off the battle for 9th place. Bonnie leading the field onto the bridge over the sea, ahead of Piero, and they've already got a decent advantage over Dutchy, who's being pushed by Natty, who's going to try and go for a move down the inside, but backs out of it in the end. But Dutchy is, well, there's no other word for this, and I didn't think I'd ever say it in a live stream, but he is starting to be a little bit slow on the hard compound tyres as the McLaren runs wide onto the gravel. But it is a snail section of the circuit. The slowest part of the circuit is that 3rd sector under the tunnel and through the chicane. However, it's compromised or made up for by the long start-finish straight that follows. Speaking of, Topster on the said start-finish straight is going to try and go round the outside of Wiggly Style down towards turn 2. Was there a little bit of contact? There might have been. Topster wide onto the gravel as the Cameron Caboon now sends one to the inside of Abyss. A little bit of wheel banging from the 2 Japanese manufacturers, but the Brits make it through cleanly. Cameron Caboon in 9th place, Tigers in 8th, Topster in 7th place, trying to make up for the slight error or the contact down at the first corner. As this train being led now by Play Dutchy on those white striped hard compound tyres, the slowest of the 3 available. But what this does allow is you can let drivers almost fall into a false sense of security, start saving fuel rather than pushing to overtake. You wouldn't assume someone like Play Dutchy would start on the hard compound tyres, or in fact be about 5-6 seconds off the top two. Speaking of, Piero is fairly close to the back of Bonneville, might try and save some fuel to have a shorter pit stop time in that McLaren. We'll have to wait and see when, if he goes for a move. Meanwhile, Dutchy still keeping the rest of the pack behind him. Toussaint ahead of Wrigley Style, going through the final chicane. Pretty much single file this section of the circuit. You can go for a move, but you'd ideally want to be side by side through the right-hander going into the tunnel after the bridge section before deciding to send one down the inside or around the outside. We might see another move in the battle for 9th place, but just going to quickly go back up to the top two because we might have a change for position for the lead of the race. Bonnie doesn't defend the inside, going in towards turn 2. Piero sends one down the inside. Can the Alfa Romeo swoop it and hold it around the outside? Yes, he can. But will Piero get the better traction on the exit of the corner? No, he doesn't, and has to settle for 2nd place for now. But great racing from those two. Natty and Dutchy now side by side as they go in towards the S's. They're still wheel to wheel. Natty on the outside gets up and ahead into a podium position. Finally gets back ahead of Dutchy after starting the race on those hard compound tyres. Now it's Toussaint's job to try and work his way past the Dutchman, and that Porsche getting a little bit out of shape on the exit of turn 4. Going wide and just sliding through the double left-hander. Dutchy struggling to find grip on those hard compound tyres. You can see that car is all over the place. The Porsche is one of the more stable Group 3 cars on average out of the selection of the range of cars available. However, it's not very stable when you put hard compound tyres on it and have an eager 2-time GT champion behind you trying to get a move on those medium compound tyres. The Dutchy strategy to work depends on who he's fighting and where he wants to finish. If he wants to finish in 1st place, the idea is to put the foot down a little bit. Not saying he's not. Those hard compound tyres are really compromising him. Through the tunnel. There you go. But if Dutchy's only planning on finishing in 3rd or 4th place, then for his strategy to work, in that sense, he needs to hold up the guys behind whilst they're on the mediums and he's on the hard compound tyres. But Dutchy's not one to settle for 3rd or 4th place. He's going to go all the way and push for a victory as he has done so many times in the past. Meanwhile, behind, Toussaint's going to go round the outside at turn 1, gives him the inside for turn 2, and takes the lead of the lead of this train that's going through turn 2 up into 4th place. Demotes Dutchy down to 5th place. And now Wrigley Style is the next car to have a go. It's overtaken Dutchy whilst it's on those hard compound tyres, although Topster is notably closer to the back of the Supra than the Supra is to the back of the Porsche. Going in towards the downhill right-hander hairpin with a 6.3 meters per second wind speed from the west. So it should make the downhill S's section a little bit easier for the drivers, especially going through dirty air or those cars that struggle with front-end grip and higher speed corners. Piero's now all over the back of Bonneville. He can read the sponsors on the back of the rear wing, going onto the bridge, down the back straight. Is he going to be close enough to go for a move? Send onto the inside, going into the tunnel. Not on this lap, but he is going purple to the middle sector. Toussaint ahead of Dutchy now, after making the move stick on the last lap. 6 of 34. It's a longer race than we've seen on a couple of recent races. Spa is the longest race on the calendar, I believe. It was intended to be slightly longer. However, after the VOP update, the lap times here have gone from a 1 minute 46 on the mediums to a 1 minute 48 / 1 minute 49. So yeah, the lap times are longer, which means this race is slightly longer than 60 minutes. With the old settings, it was when I was working out the lap times with 1 minute 46s. Oh, Pierre's taken the lead of the race. I've missed it, waffling about the lap time. Let's go back. Ignore the lap times. Here goes Piero down the start-finish straight in the slipstream of Bon-Evil, pulls over to the right-hand side of the circuit, the inside for turn 2, the McLaren late on the brakes, Bon-Evil's gone wide and concedes the position, and Piero takes the lead of the race. I believe there might also have been a move further down the grid. Indeed there was. It's Topster under pressure from Tiger Assassin, who's trying to move up a couple of positions. After starting this race in 11th, he's already gained 3 positions. Speaking of gaining positions, Toussaint up into 4th after starting in 9th. He's gained 5 in the opening 5 laps. Hello and welcome to everyone tuning in. Looks like Topster running a little bit wide through turn 5, and my rumours, or my guesses were true, as he picks up a 5/10 penalty for going over the white line. The track limits at this track noted by the white lines on the edges of the track. Dutchy drifting through the double, the first of the double right-handers in the middle sector. Those hard compound tyres maybe not quite up to temperature just yet. Drivers who are up to temperature and getting on it, Piero and Bon-Evil running first and second respectively, pulling away from the cars behind. And actually kind of in a race of his own, along with Wolfie, who's trailing at the back of the field. That Country Mush keeping up with the back of Aston. As look at this, Topster and Tiger now side by side, going into the tunnel. Topster on the inside, backs out of that move at the last minute. Playing it a little bit more sensibly. As someone ran wide, I think that was Dutchy running wide onto the gravel. He seems to have lost time to Toussaint, and Wiggly Styles gaining on him down the back straight, or down the start of the straight, sorry. Through the tunnel they go. Is there space for Wiggly Styles? Dutchy was squeezing the Swede up against the outside barrier. That was close, but both survived. The hazards go on, possibly to apologise. Dutchy parks his car in the middle of the circuit. Wiggly Styles chooses the inside for turn 1, outside for turn 2. Topster on the inside of Tiger, defending that position as the Brit tries to go round the outside in towards the first corner, but Topster now up into 7th place, and Dutchy down to 6th. Cam and Baboon and Abyss both keeping up with this battle for what is 5th place on the road, as Toussaint has started to put a gap to Wiggly Star, and now has X-Natty G in his sights. The Season 2 Premier Series champion ahead of the Season 1 Premier Series champion, but both behind Piero and Bon-Evil, who are 1 and 2 in this race after starting 1st and 3rd. Dutchy, after starting on the front row of the grid, is now down to 6th place, under pressure from Topster. Tiger's under pressure from Cam Kaboom in the Lexus behind. A long train of cars. This I thought the Dirty Air would be... Dirty Air's a little bit quite impactful, especially through the first sector, but these drivers really keeping up with each other through this sector. We're 8 laps in, 14 minutes into the 60-minute race, and we've still got plenty of drama to unfold at this circuit. You can see the beautiful view of the sea in the background, the sun setting over the sea as the drivers go over the bridge to time this race. Tiger under pressure from Cam Kaboom was trying to put an attack on Topster and close down the gap to the back of that McLaren 650S. Meanwhile up front, the gap started to open up a little bit between Bon-Evil and Piero, maybe about a second separating the drivers out front. Natty running in 3rd, ahead of Toussaint in 4th, Wiggly Star in 5th, keeping Dutchy behind him in 6th. He's under pressure from Topster in 7th. German trying to go for a move down the inside, late on the brakes, doesn't hit the back of the Porsche, but was getting close to it. Going into turn 1, maybe that's just a difference in confidence, a difference in tyre advantage between the medium and the hards, between the McLaren and the Porsche. Down the hill you can see Topster's gaining and gaining and gaining on Dutchy, who parks his car defensively in the middle of the circuit to deny Topster an overtaking opportunity. Meanwhile behind, Tiger Assassin and Cameron Kaboom have picked up 5/10 penalties. I didn't see where, but I think they were from going over the final left-hander in the S's section, which is really easy to do, especially in Dirty Air and the tailwind. Thankfully we haven't got one of them, but go over that white line and we will get a 5/10 penalty. Speaking of, Toussaint's got a 5/10 penalty somewhere in the middle sector as well, so he's going to have to slow down for half a second. Adds up to about a 1 second deficit at this circuit on the bridge. pulls over to the right hand side of the track off the racing line, and here goes Wiggly Styles' opportunity to try and get up into fourth place, goes for a move round the outside, down in towards the right hander at the hairpin, and gets the move done. Doesn't he? No, he doesn't, because they're still going to go side by side. The Mercedes trying to go round the outside. Can they make this stick? This is going to be close. There's contact between the two. Wiggly Styles off in the wall. Dutchy's now going to capitalise and get ahead of the Mercedes. Topster follows him through. Contact between Toussaint and Wiggly Styles put the Swedish driver down into what's going to be 12th place with a front bumper and suspension damage. Will the stewards look at that? We'll have to wait and see. But it is really difficult to try and go wheel to wheel through that chicane, especially with the track limits being the white lines. Topster now on the right hand side of the circuit has the inside line for turn 2. Doesn't need the braking zone because he's already ahead of Dutchy. Tiger trying to go around the outside of his British teammate down into the first corner, but just tucks in behind the white, blue, black and red Mercedes AMG GT3. All the colours on the two teammates running in 6th and 7th place. Topster now leading this train up into 4th place. Dutchy in 5th. Toussaint's on the inside of the Dutchman. Laws one to the inside, made it stick with no contact. Fair play, I didn't even see that one. Carlin, that was too busy waffling on about positions and colours. But a great move, promotes the Californian Mercedes into 5th place, and now Toussaint's trying to get back on with this race after the contact with Wiggly Styles, and he's only got one car to put him back up into 4th place. Whilst all this is happening behind, the front three continue to pull away. Nats in 3rd, Bonnie in 2nd, about 1.2 seconds ahead of him is Piero, leading this race, has done since about lap 7 or 8. Also has the fastest lap of the race to his name, and if he can keep that by the end, we'll get an extra point in the championship standings. Cameron Caboon has picked up a 5/10 penalty somewhere in the lap and have to serve it at the penalty gate on the next lap, lap number 11. He might get another one actually for the exit of the second half of the chicane. Indeed he does. Went over the white line. Track limits have been noted by a lot of the drivers at this circuit. Not a fan favourite. But it is denoted by the white lines at this track. It's not the curb, it's not the bollards or whatever, it's the white lines on the side of the track. So, especially at this part of the circuit, your wheel could still technically be on tarmac, but track limits will be awarded for coming over the white line with all 4 tyres. On board with Born Evil's Alfa Romeo going through the middle sector, 3/10 off his personal best through the first. Trying to close down the gap to Piero, but has to keep in mind that Alfa Romeo really goes through its front tyres a lot harder, a lot more than the other cars around him. You can see the tyre difference between the Alfa and the McLaren. The rear left also starting to fade on the Alfa Romeo. The left-hand tyres do take more of a beating than the right-hand side of the car, primarily due to the swoop-in turn 2 and the hairpin. Also this right-hander here really screams out to the front tyre, the left-hand side tyres. Trying to put the foot down whilst trying to turn whilst accelerating. Really wearing those left-hand side tyres, especially the front and the rears. But the field kind of shaken a little bit, not too much. Piero leading from Bonneville, Natty up into a podium position, finished his got his first podium of the season in Spa, back in round number 4. Tops it in as a replacement tonight, running in 4th place. Toussaint trying to break the slipstream. No, he's not. Pulls into the pits at the end of lap 11. That's relatively early off the medium compound tyres. Is this a 3-stop? Or is it an aggressive 2-stop? Let's try and take the soft tyres longer in this race, but ultimately be quicker. And I've said this for many of seasons. Why do unnecessary laps on the medium compound tyres when the softs could not make it to the end as such, but when either 2 sets of softs could go comfortably to the end. A couple of different liveries on the grid, notably one of them actually being the McLaren, the New Zealand McLaren, running the a rainbow fern on the side of the car as we enter June and Pride Month. And personally, I think it looks actually really nice, and I was proud how in the way it worked and went together. Another special livery for this race we just saw a couple of seconds ago was the Californian Mercedes that Toussaint has made in preparation for this race. He's gone wide, hit one of the hay bales on the outside of the track, and he's lost the position to Cameron Kaboom. A lack of concentration or cold soft compound tyres, I'm not too sure. But a mistake from the reigning champion, down in 11th place, but has made his pit stop. The second driver to make a stop in this race. Cameron Kaboom was the first at the end of lap 10 onto a set of soft compound tyres. I've just seen a comment from Bonnie Wu that I didn't see early on. Dutchy becoming the start of the trolley train. That was said a couple of laps ago when Dutchy was in 3rd or 4th place, and he had probably 60%, 70% of the field right on his rear bumper. But now that the race has kind of unfolded a little bit, he's got a bit of clean air both in front and behind him to try and focus on setting quick, consistent laps on those hard compound tyres, just so the deficit isn't too bad when he does pit for a set of mediums or hards. His goal in this race would be to stay out and have the two stoppers not overtake him when he makes his stop, because then that will be pole position. That will be when everyone needs to make one more stop in this race. I think we're about to see one of the leaders make their pit stop on this lap. Bon Evil very much graining down that front left-hand tyre, as we saw in Mount Panorama last week. He might stay out for one more lap to get the softs to the end of the race, 34 laps, so 14:10:10 will just about cut it. Appears to go medium soft soft, might have to go medium soft, 13:13:8 possibly. Tyre wears on the McLarens are looking a lot healthier than that on the Alfa Romeo. Look at the tyre difference between Natty and Topster, both in the same car, but nearly double the tyre wear on the front left. Bon Evil interestingly stays out. It's clearly a target, or try to reach a target lap time. Natty's into the pits at the end of lap 13 off of the medium compound tyres. Topster stays out, so does Dutchy on those hards. Type Assassin in the Porsche also staying out, and he's got a bit not too far behind him. Where's Toussaint? He's dropped off the back of Cameron Kaboom actually. A couple of mistakes being made. 1:33 on the last lap. That was his out lap after making a pit stop. But let's see what this lap's going to be for the Brits. It's a 1:48.9.1, so definitely made a mistake somewhere on this lap, because even the leaders, I think, are lapping similar pace on the medium compound tyres. One medium compound tyres to add, but so it's also important to note that this track is car specific to certain cars. That's one way of wording it, which is an interesting factor that I considered at the start of the season when making this calendar, that there will not be one open car for every track. You saw how the Alfa Romeo was dominant in Sardinia and had the pace at the Red Bull Ring to challenge for the win. This one is a track that does not suit the Mercedes AMG. Although after the VOP update, there aren't many tracks that now suit the Mercedes AMG, well, the 2016 one at least, after they released the 2020 version during or halfway through this season. As Natty's come out of the pits ahead of Toussaint, but interestingly the gap between those two is not that significant, although having looked at the fuel, that is probably why the gap is shorter than when it was prior to the pit stops. Natty's putting fuel. It doesn't look like Toussaint's put in as much. The leaders are into the pits. Bon Evil followed into the pits by Bon Evil. Topster stays out and will take the net lead of the race here on lap 15. Ahead of Play Dutchy. Pierre leaving the pit lane now. Bon Evil still being serviced for some fuel. So the grid deciding it's best to put more fuel in this phase of the strategy than in this stint than the second. This could be close between Natty and Bon Evil on the pit lane exit. The McLaren goes through ahead of Bon Evil, who was in second place. Bon Evil has been jumped in the pit stops. That's the power of the undercuts. It looks like Bon Evil is putting a little bit more fuel on the car in front, but could be a crucial strategic element towards the end of this race. What's Piero done with the fuel? He's put in just over half a tank, about 60%, I believe. That's almost exactly the same as the other McLaren out on track, running in 6th place on the road, and purple to the first sector behind Cameron Kaboom and Black Country Mush on the circuit. But the two drivers on different strategies. One yet to make a pit stop. Cameron Kaboom pitted early off of the medium compound side onto a set of softs, and I think is either going for a medium soft medium, or it's a 3-stop, and he's going to use all of his soft compound tyre sets available to him to finish off this race. We're nearly halfway through the 34 lap race here in California at the Grand Valley Highway GP. Cam Kaboom purple to the middle sector on those soft compound tyres, right up behind Black Country Mush, who's going to be lapping slower on those Warner mediums, parking the bus, you might say, at the chicane. Cam Kaboom just can't quite find a way through, and we're hoping the Mercedes pulls into the pits or that he gets ahead before they make their way down towards the turn 1. But Cameron Kaboom with the grip advantage on those soft compound tyres will get ahead of the Mercedes as Black Country Mush pulls into the pits off of those medium compound tyres. And keep an eye on what tyres he goes on to. Tops is leaving the pits on a set of soft compound tyres. Where's he going to filter out? It's behind Toussaint and ahead of Wrigley Style, who's just gone 1.4 seconds quicker than his personal best on those soft compound tyres. That just goes to show the advantage that the soft tyres have compared to the mediums. But Natty with the fastest lap of the race so far, 46.8. I think the pole time was a 46.3. I'm not too sure. I'll have to double check that, or unless someone in the comments can remember what the pole time was. Might have been quicker than a 46.3. Could have been a 45.9. Can't remember. But a battle for third place is about to kick off between Natty and Cam Kaboom, two drivers on the soft compound tyres, as the sun begins to set behind in the background. Beautiful camera shot. I love this camera angle, especially at this time of day with the sun setting behind the bridge, the scenery of the cliff faces, the beach, the cove and the sea below. This really is a beautiful track, and I think one of my top 5 best looking made up circuits in this game, maybe even top 5 best looking circuits as a whole. I really do prefer the improvements to the scenery at this circuit compared to Grand Valley Speedway, a slightly different circuit from Gran Turismo 6, but slight changes have been made in the final sector for this layout and in this game. It might see a position change. Indeed, there we go. The Kiwi McLaren flies past on the right hand side, moves up into third place, but then Cameron Kaboom was particularly interested in fighting that one. Might just sit behind McLaren, save a little bit of fuel, save a little bit of tyres, and work on his strategy to try and beat the drivers he believes he's fighting in tonight's race. As Dutchy is now in the lead of this race on those hard compound tyres, setting consistent lap times in the 1 minute 49. We noted his consistency last week in Mount Panorama. Whether those are the lap times he wants to be doing, 1 minute 49s, we'll have to wait and, well, I was going to say we will have to wait and see, but there's no way of knowing unless he wins this race, I suppose. But he's got Piero already close behind him, and we've only just reached the halfway phase in this race. And Piero, well, he's only just made his first stop a couple of laps ago, nearly back up to the rear of the net race leader, who's trying to make the one stop work for him. Let's have a look through down the grid. Someone's got a penalty. Toussaint with a 5/10 penalty. In that Mercedes will slow down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. Lifts off the throttle, back on the throttle, for half a second break, but does lose about a second in lap time due to the momentum lost going in towards this right-hander. It's now put Topster nearly within the slipstream range. Abyss battling with his British rival Tiger Assassin, only his second race in the GT7 league, running in 9th place and ahead of a former race winner. Meanwhile up front, Cameron's into the pits, but Piero's all over the back, have played out, well I say all over the back, he's gained a lot. He's 3 seconds a lap faster than the net race leader. Just goes to show the difference between the red striped soft compound tyres and the white striped hard compound tyres. That gap between Natty and Bonneville not changing all too much in this second stint. But look at the grip advantage that Piero has on those soft compound tyres. Sooner or later he's going to get past that Porsche. Is he going to do it now? Trying to get the cut back off that left-hander before going into this left-hander. I'm a professional in my track knowledge in terms of corner numbers. But going into this swooping right-hander onto the bridge, surely Pierre is going to get the overtake done here and now. Dutch is going to try and squeeze him over to the right-hand side. How has Pierre got the straight line speed advantage to go for a move down inside, in towards the tunnel section, wheel to wheel with the race leader. Pierre now takes the lead of the race that he once held at the end of lap 7 and is back up into the lead of the race, ahead of Dutchy on those hard compound tyres, struggling for pace. Now Pierre will try and pull away, not drag Dutchy along with him. I think Dutchy's going to struggle to keep up with Pierre, and he's going to have McLaren and an Alfa Romeo looking at the back of his rear wing in a couple of laps' time. Topster maintaining 5th place as he stays ahead of Toussaint. Not back actually. No, what's happened there? Topster was behind Toussaint before the Brit Circle 5 penalty, so Topster's actually got ahead somewhere. 2.3 seconds lost in the last lap for Toussaint, so he must have made a mistake somewhere throughout the lap that's cost him time and the position to Topster. The reigning champion down in 6th place. I say down in 6th place, started in 9th I think, so has actually gained 3 positions in this race. The field is still relatively close together after 19 laps of racing, equivalent to 34 minutes of action. Tiger and Abyss now going side by side. The Porsche getting the move done down the inside at the hairpin, up into 8th place, and try and work his way up the order, trying to close down that gap to Wrigley style. Abyss tries to everyone back down the inside. Tiger's left the door open. They're going to go wheel to wheel through turns 12 and 13. The long swooping right hander. Can Abyss try and work it round the outside? Beautifully executed if he can make it stick in the Nissan GTR. They're going to go side by side in the run down towards turn 14. Through the tunnel they go. Tiger tucks into the behind as Abyss makes the move stick back up into 8th place after losing it down at the hairpin. Maybe Tiger struggling a little bit in this race, try and find himself in a bit of a groove, because lap times are, some might say, all over the place. 2 seconds between his last 2 laps. In the slipstream of the Nissan, going in towards turn 1 and 2, but he's not going to be close enough to find the move. Matty closing up to the back of Dutch, and we could see a change in position for 2nd place on the road. Meanwhile, we've got Cameron Kaboom pitting for a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and we'll be looking to try and overtake Aston as soon as possible, so it's not compromised in any way in his aggressive 3-stop strategy, pitting early off with the medium compound tyres. try and set purple lap times on those quicker tyres. Riding on board with the rear wing of Play Dutchy, you can see how much Natty's gained through that one corner alone, flashing his lights in the Dutchman's direction. But let's just see how much the McLaren gains through turn 14, through this long swooping right-hander, almost as if there's like a winch attached to the back of the Porsche pulling him along. He needs a good run through the chicane. Dutchy hasn't had it. Throws on all sorts of dust and gravel towards the windshield of the McLaren. Is Natty going to be close enough to go for a move in towards turn 1? He's going to have the slipstream advantage down the start-finish straight, and also the natural straight line speed advantage the McLaren has over the Porsche. Porsche not the fastest car in the straight line. Here goes the McLaren to the right-hand side of the circuit, round the outside for turn 1, down the inside for turn 2. Can he get it slowed down in time? Indeed he does. Covers the inside, denies the switchback opportunity, and now Natty's up into second place. Dutchy losing a lot of time on those hard compound tyres, and Bon Evil's going to be up behind his rear wing in not too many laps time. Down the hairpin for the 21st time this race, turn number 6, and it started to get a little bit overcast here in California. It cannot rain at this circuit, although maybe the weather is just symbolising Dutchy's thought process of starting on the hard compound tyres. I think the win is out of reach for him. He's got to have a mega stint on those soft compound tyres. I think he's probably thinking about getting off those hards as soon as humanly possible, when he can find the pit window to take those softs to the end of the race. To say it all over the back of Wrigley Style, he's now down to 7th place. Has he made another mistake somewhere? He's lost 1.4 seconds on the last lap, and he's running out of fuel, so we might see Toussaint pitting at the end of this lap. But 13 laps on a set of the soft compound tyres, it's not going to be an easy stint. He might have to go into the mediums to finish this race off, although he knows that's not an option. It's the safest option in terms of tyre wear, but there's no terminal damage or physical punctures, so we might as well just take the gamble and put on a set of the soft compound tyres. Dutchy goes into the pit, he's off the hard compound tyres. Does he go to soft, or does he go on to mediums? You'd think, with Dutchy's ability to tyre save, and with Porsche being kind on its tyres, it might opt for a set of the soft compound tyres. Wrigley and Toussaint both go through up into 5th and 6th place. Abyss is going to go through as well, so is Tiger. Dutchy's still stationary in the pit lane, putting in fuel. For he is now released, and he's going to be stone dead last, minus Wolfie, who's running in 13th place. So now, what Dutchy really doesn't want to happen is get stuck behind a slower running car whilst he's on those soft compound tyres. He wants to hope that everyone in front of him is ideally pitting before he catches up to the back of them. Otherwise, that's just going to hinder his one-stop attempt. One-stop is definitely a strategy that will work on paper in terms of getting the tyres from A to B. Is it the quickest strategy? We'll have to wait and see. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. Piero has absolutely dominated this race thus far. He's led nearly every single lap after Bon Evil started on pole position. Once he got the overtake done, he made it stick and he never looked back, and is continuing to put the foot down. Looking at the lap times though, he's lapping fairly similar to the car behind Xmatic. The gap about 6-7 seconds between the two drivers. Piero just managing that advantage he has to the car behind. He knows he doesn't need to push excessively, otherwise that could warrant a mistake. Bon Evil, someone who may be thinking of pushing or conserving those soft compound tyres to get to a target lap time in that tyre hungry Alfa Romeo. Topster running a Senna sort of tribute livery, perhaps a white and gold McLaren with the Brazilian colours, Senna's helmet colours on the side of the car. It's a very nice livery. Does it say McLaren on the back? Indeed it does, both on thick and bold on the rear wing. Car number 12 As Wiggly Star running in 5th place. Where is everyone? Abyss in 6th, Tiger in 7th. Someone's in the pits. It's Toussaint and Aston, both making their second and final stop. That's the sound being released. It's the sound of a Mercedes AMG GT3. Toussaint is released from the pit window, and Dutch is already going through the S's, turn 3, 4 and 5. Whilst Toussaint's going through turn 2. Is the difference in the tyre strategy, is the pace and the fortune that has hit each driver perhaps. Oh, I thought I muted my mic. Apologies if you heard any uncomfortable drinking sounds. As blue flags have been waved for someone, that's not being waved for Wiggum Style. There must be a back marker somewhere in this battle. There he is. It's Wolfie, who's had an unfortunate race tonight. He's said before the race that this is definitely not one of his favourite circuits. In fact, it's one of the opposites, definitely not the favourite. Is struggling for pace, lifts off to let Bonneville go through. Nearly contact, in fact, between the two. Did Bonneville need to risk all the slipstream down the start-finish straight, especially in the Alfa Romeo? Probably not, but that's what a racing driver is all about. Taking unnecessary risks, or taking risks when you don't need to. That is the same thing. I've just repeated myself, but just to be on the safe side. Natty's in and out of the pits in 8th place, ahead of Black Country Mush and ahead of Play Dutchie on fresher, soft compound tyres. That's not what Dutchie wanted in this race. Ideally, he wanted to be at least within a second or ahead of the drivers running within the top 3. Dutchie was 3rd when he came into the pits. He's now running 10th. However, all but one of the drivers in front of him have to make another pit stop. Tiger Assassin getting a little bit slidey, or as a co-commentator would say, loosey-goosey through turn 7 and 8. I'm remembering the corners. Don't you worry, guys. I'm getting my track knowledge is slowly but surely coming back to me. I'm learning as we go throughout the race. These two section of corners, turn 12 and 13, the back straight, the second longest straight at the circuit. Abyss running in 5th place. Wiggly Style running in 4th. The fuel light is flashing red, meaning a few of these cars will be pulling into the pits in the next lap or two for a quick refreshment and a change of tyres. Someone is definitely going to be into the pits. Following the race leader is going to be ART Bonneville 99 with a puncture to the front left, and is into the pits with more fuel than Piero, interestingly. Topster also into the pits, the top 3, the top 4 into the pits, the top 5, the top 6 into the pits. Everyone diving into the pits on lap 24, apart from Cameron Caboon, who goes straight past down the start finish straight and will not take the net lead of the race, because in and out goes Piero into the lead of the race, and it's looking like a comfortable victory for Piero, whose pace has been unquestionable from the drivers behind. But Cameron Caboon now promoted into 2nd place, but is still yet to make another pit stop. Doesn't have to, has used 2 different tyre compounds, could go to the end, but I don't think the tyres have the life left in them to make that work. Natty now running in 3rd place, ahead of Play Dutchie in 4th, Bonnie in 5th, ahead of Tarbster in 6th, Wiggly Star in 7th, ahead of Abyss in 8th, Toussaint in 9th, ahead of his teammate Tiger in 10th. Black Country Motions out of the pits in 11th place, but this could be close with Aston running in 12th. And unfortunately, Wolfie has retired from this race. Contact between the Ford GT and the Mercedes, and it's not the first time that they've touched this season, and I don't think it'll be the last, with 5 races to go after this one. 4 races to go after this one, 2 in America, 2 in Japan. We're currently in California, fighting for 11th place. Aston's down the inside on those warm, soft compound tyres. He's got a little bit deep. Black Country Mush with the switchback, beautifully executed. The Mercedes now up into 11th place. Aston sees an open door on the inside. He thinks about it, but he doesn't go for it. He's wise enough to know that that door would be firmly shut in his face if he pokes a bumper down at the double left-hander. I should go wide for the first one to hit the apex for the second. This is a nice battle for 11th place, the final point available on offer. One singular point, but it could mean so much in these drivers' personal rivalry and championship standings. Riding on board with now with the 4GT going towards turn 14. Aston looking at a potential lunge to the inside, but isn't close enough to make that move stick. I think we might have seen a position change. We might have a position change in fact for 8th place. Abyss putting Toussaint under pressure through the tunnel, down the start finish straight. The Nissan GT flies past the Mercedes AMG. They're still going to go slightly wheel to wheel, but Abyss is going to get ahead by the time they get to turn 1. Turn 2 doesn't cover it off. Toussaint lunges one back down the inside. It's got a little bit deep. Abyss with the inside line now gets back up into 8th place. So I say back up into 8th place, is up into 8th place, makes the move stick. A beautiful switch back ahead of Toussaint, who's now got his teammate Tiger putting him under pressure. But this is the battle for 8th place. Oh, contact. Abyss is going to be sent off into the shadow round. Tiger now down the inside of Toussaint, who lets Abyss go back through. Tiger gaining 2 positions down at one corner. Luckily, if it wasn't for the gravel and the invisible barrier, Abyss could have been sent off the cliff, and that would have been a fatal accident. We would have lost a driver tonight. But fortunately, there is a barrier and there is gravel to slow that car down before it met the sea. Meanwhile, behind, Black Country Mush still battling it out with Aston in that battle for 11th place. Although we do have to, I say we do have to, we don't actually have to, I can do what I want. But we are going to watch this battle for 9th place unfold as Abyss tries to defend from Toussaint, running in 9th and 10th place. Sounded like someone hit the wall there. It might have been Tiger, but the Nissan running a little bit wide. Camera Kaboom into the pits for his 3rd and final stop, onto a set of the soft compact tyres to finish out the final part of the race. Down the start finish straight they go. Cameron Kaboom's leaving the pit lane. This could be close with a number of drivers going through on the left hand side of the circuit. Through goes Tiger Assassin. Does he filter out in the gap? Indeed he does, ahead of Abyss, but behind Tiger Assassin. Aston's got a 5/10 penalty, and that's going to compromise him in his battle with Black Country Mush for 11th place, although it's not going to stop him looking up the inside, but backs out of that one. Tiger's now got a job on his hand to defend from Cameron Kaboom, whilst on those fresher soft compound tyres, the Lexus can set some rapid lap times. The fastest of the session is currently a 46.360, set by the Flying Dutchman, although he's... Oh, we got a slunge to the inside. That was disgusting from Aston, but he's made it stick. We're going to have one more look at it. On board with Black Country Mush, doesn't leave the door, leaves the door wide open. Aston making contact with the front right of Black Country Mush. It's not the first time they've made contact in not only this race, but the whole season. It's a long-lasting rivalry that has fully gone up in flames. There's no... You're going to have to... you can't smother it with a tea towel or smother it with a shoe. I think it's something that's going to keep raging on for the final 4 races of this thrilling championship season. Play Dutchy setting 1:46.7, Natty 2/10 slower on the last lap, but as it stands with about a 3-second gap, that might just be enough to keep the Brit ahead of the Dutchman by the time they cross the line at the end of lap 34. Cameron Kaboom trying to put Tiger Assassin under pressure as they go down the start finish straight for the 27th time this race, going in towards turn 1. Tiger moves his Porsche to the middle of the circuit to try and defend before moving back over to the racing line, and Cameron Kaboom can't quite find the way through. Here goes Black Country Mush behind Aston, somewhere within the lap. Aston's got back past that Mercedes, and he got it at the hairpin. Here goes Black Country Mush. He's gone wide. He's onto the gravel and he's swerved right in front of Aston. They were so close to contact between those two. Let's have a look at that one more time. On board with Aston F1. This is going to be close, but actually doing cockpit cam to see this. We'll start with Black Country Mush, who's tucked up nicely in this slipstream of Aston F1. Down the start-finish straight they go. Here on lap 28, Aston defensive to the inside. Black Country Mush tries to go to the right, but he's on the gravel in the cockpit of the 4GT. See that Mercedes perpendicular to the circuit, fly right in front of his screen. Code brown is what the engineer is screaming in Aston's ear, as I'm sure those trousers will need to be checked after the race. They may need to be one of the items thrown off the cliff, although I do not condone polluting, but those trousers are definitely not going to be reusable after this race. We've got the Tiger train forming in the battle for 7th place. Behind him, Cameron Kaboom, Abyss and Toussaint running in 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. Meanwhile, up front, Piero is running away with victory here in the American Grand Prix. 1 minute 46.4, 1 minute 46.7, only 0.3 a lap quicker than Natty behind, although crucially extending his advantage to the drivers behind. Dutchy with a 5/10 penalty, also going slower than Natty, 47.9. Maybe had a penalty, or maybe it made a mistake. Bonnie with a 46.7 as well, so lapping with the same pace as ex-Natty G. It's not going to be enough to get him on the 2nd place, but it might be enough to see him finish on the podium if he can keep this pace up. Cameron Kaboom down the inside of Tiger, who has a little bit of a twitch, opens up the steering on the halfway through the corner as Cameron gets up into 7th place ahead of the Porsche as they make their way down the S's through turns 3, 4, the left-hander of 5, and braking heavily from 151 miles per hour for the hairpin of turn 6. Aided in the braking by the slight headwind, 6.3 meters per second has gone up since the start of the race ever so slightly. But to put into perspective how quickly things can change in this ever-changing league and season, Toussaint won the last race in Mount Panorama, didn't win on the circuit, but did in post-race penalties after Play Dutchy was awarded a 5-second time penalty for the contact at the final corner. Saw them inevitably switching positions, but from 1st to 10th, I mean, I can't name a bigger downfall if I'm perfectly honest. Sorry to say, that was uncalled for. But this is the closest battle and the biggest rivalry out on the circuit at the minute. Cameron Kaboom versus Tiger, and Abyss against Toussaint, although this could quickly become one four-way fight for 7th place. We've got 4 laps to go here, not 4 laps to go, sorry, 5 laps to go at the Grand Valley Highway American Grand Prix here in California. Abyss defends the inside line on the left-hand side of the screen, right-hand side of the track. Toussaint's going to try and sweep it around the outside, and a little bit of marbles on the outside, and can't quite make that move stick, but he's going to have to run the momentum having taken the outside line down the hill through the S's. Is he going to be close enough to send one to the in or outside at the hairpin? You can see the understeer in the dirty air, and he struggles to turn the car for the right and left-hander of 4 and 5, and has to sit behind the Nissan for another lap. 8/10 of his personal best through the first sector alone. Fastest lap is a 46.7 that was set on his last lap. Fastest lap of the race is 4/10 quicker by Play Dutchy. 46.3, doesn't look like that's going to be beaten unless anyone decides to pit in the dying laps of this race for a fastest lap attempt with the low fuel. And so Tops is gaining on Bon Evil a little bit in this race, both going through the dodgy chicane. I say dodgy chicane because a lot of the drivers have complained about the track limits, although if we ride on board with Wiggly Star, it is those white lines and you can't ride or take too much of the curb, otherwise the game will give you a 5/10 or a second penalty depending on how much you exceed it by. Someone with a penalty is Toussaint, who's picked that up at an interesting corner. Must have been, I'm not sure where he's got that from actually, because it would have been around the region of the penalty gate, which leaves turns 11 and 10 and 11. That might put him out of the battle for 9th place. He's also lost, what was that, 1.8 seconds I think it was, compared to his previous best, and he's not on particularly too worn soft compound tyres. Talks to those having a nice comfortable drive in his return to the GT leads after missing the last, if I can do the quick maths, 20 races I believe. I think it's been 20 races since we've seen Topster on the grid. Round 1 Nürburgring season 6. He's back again for this week here at Road at Grand Valley. Not Road Atlanta, that's next week. Lap 31 of 34. Tiger's going to slow down for half a second, so is his teammate. This could bring a bit of abyss into this battle for 8th place, as Cameron Kaboom is now further up the road. Doesn't look like Tiger's going to be able to catch up to him. But the time loss serving the penalty might have brought Abyss just within the slipstream range that is about 7 or 8 tenths per second. That's the margin you want to be behind the car in order to be awarded the advantage of slipstream down the straights. Back up front, Piero. I mean, it's been a faultless drive from car number 41 thus far. We're not going to say anything just yet, otherwise something might happen, and I do not want to curse. There have been a number of commentator cursing cases where incidents or spins have occurred after giving praise to another driver. Topster's now within the same camera shot as Bon Evil. By that I mean I could flick between the two cameras and you can see, oh, it doesn't do it now, but when they were at that corner it just switched between the two like this. It doesn't have doesn't cut, there's a change in camera. But this race has flown by so quickly, despite being the second longest, or one of the longest, on the calendars. Pierre rounds the final corner to start the penultimate lap of this race. In the lead of this race, has led pretty much every single lap apart from the first 6 or 7. And he got past Bon Evil, who's now running in 10th place, 4th place, sorry. Not 10th, I don't know where I got that from. But our closest battle on the track, the top 6 and top 7 are fairly separated. It's now between Abyss and Tiger Assassin for 8th place. Abyss struggling perhaps with a little bit more tyre wear and degradation than that of the Porsche. Toussaint, having pitted quite early on his first stint on the soft compound tyres, is starting to feel the effects of worn soft compound tyres and will have to straggle on those tyres for 2 more laps, may even get a puncture by the end of the race. I've not been this disappointed with I messed that up, let me start that again. I've not been let's not talk about anything or anyone anymore because I've forgotten how to speak English. So I'll say what I was going to say at the end of the race, that way it doesn't really matter if it comes out or not. But thank you to everyone who is currently watching the live stream. If you're watching this on YouTube also, or not live on Twitch, then also thank you for watching. Your viewership is mostly, I was going to say mostly appreciated, it's fully appreciated. I don't know where mostly came from. Fully appreciated. You're spending your time, whether you're at the gym or something, watching this race, or if you're doing some homework, some revision, like I guess it's exam season for you school kids. So keep working hard, get those grades you need. As well, Piero starts the final lap of the race. We're going to get rid of that one, yeah. We're going to get rid of the bottom half of the screen just so we can see more of Piero do a lap of Grand Valley whilst I waffle on about his amazing performance this race. I say waffle, I mean every word I'm about to say. Some beautiful camera shots of that McLaren 650S going through the hairpin of turn 6 for one final time. The sun has come out to play behind the shadow of the clouds in the background to greet Piero. His first win this season. I say that with hesitation, although I think it's true. But it's been a great race from Piero, absolutely dominant. He's found a rhythm, he's stuck with the rhythm, and he's found a groove that works for him. He's led nearly every single lap, didn't quite get pole position, hasn't quite got the fastest lap of the race, but as you can see, his lap times are quick and consistent, even on worn soft compound tyres. He made his moves when he needed to, when he got on with his own race. He rounds the final chicane for the final time, cautiously making his way through the final chicane, not trying to get the track, or trying to avoid getting track limits, through the valley switchback, through Speedway corner, I guess now rebranded Highway corner for the final time. The lights ignite on the Porsche. Piero's championship fight is back on. He weaves across the start finish line. He will be the first to greet the checkered flag. He wins the American Grand Prix here at Grand Valley Highway. And a great race from Piero. X90G flashes his headlights, slows down and weaves across the line. His second podium of the season. P2 ahead of third place Playduchy, spinning across the line. Top third, not quite beating Bonneville to the line. Bonneville finishing fourth with Topser in fifth, maybe half a second behind. Just needed a little bit more straight and he might have got the move done. Wrigley Star in 6th place ahead of his teammate Cameron Kaboom in 7th. Good race from those two. Cameron making this 3-stop work for him. Tiger Assassin finishes in 8th place, beating out Abyss in 9th. And a slow moving Toussaint rounds the final corner for the final time, lifting off the throttle. And I've not seen a performance this disappointing since I saw Shrek 2. Aston finishes this race in 11th place, passes the yellow flags and crosses the checkered the finishing line, sees the checkered flag, and Black Country Mush finishes in 12th place with his racing rival Aston ahead of him. Oh, he's got Greggs on the side. That's a very nice sponsor. 10 extra points. Everyone loves the Greggs. Besides Greggs, let's go through the order from bottom to top. We've got Black Country Mush in 12th place behind Aston in 11th. Toussaint in 10th. The special livery didn't make up for a non-special performance. Abyss in 9th place behind Tiger in 8th. Cameron Kaboom in 7th behind his teammate Wiggly Style in 6th. Tobster in 5th, just behind Bonneville in 4th. Playduchy finishing in 3rd, with Natty in 2nd, a special livery for a more special performance, and Piero, your race winner here at Grand Valley. Let's get a picture somewhere within the circuit. That is a nice camera shot with the sun setting in the background. There are better photo opportunities at the circuit, but we're going to pick this one here to get the final race photo of your race winner. There you go. That is a beautiful camera shot of a beautiful car and a beautiful performance from Piero. Reignites his championship fight, and the battle is on in the championship once again. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this race as much as I have. Grand Valley made its GT debut on the calendar and it didn't disappoint, I have to say. Maybe not as action-packed in terms of overtaking, but the strategy made it interesting and different to what we used to be seeing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, both as a driver and a commentator. And who knows, maybe one day we might see this track return again. It appears to be a bit of a love-hate relationship with a lot of the drivers either liking it or not liking it. I've not really seen much of a middle ground. It's okay opinion, but we move. Make sure to join us next week for round number 10 at Road Atlanta, another new track to the game that makes its league debut on the calendar. The second of 3 American races in this American triple header towards the back end of the season. Congrats to Piero for the win. Thank you to everyone who took part as both drivers, spectators and viewers and whatnot. And I hope to see you guys next week. Same time, same place, where we're going to do it all again. I've been X Natty G. I'll see you later. Goodbye.